This is a special report from Neighborhood Network News on flash flooding in one of our local historic districts. We focus on Grande Avenue in the Wellington Heights neighborhood. Though the entire Wellington Heights neighborhood is subject to flash flooding, Grande Avenue is particularly prone during even moderate rainfalls and especially when they are heavy. We're part of the Kenwood watershed, the East Branch. Grande Avenue is represented on the map by the extended dark block. Runoff from Grand joins that from the Kenwood Ditch at the 5 Points intersection of 13th Street Northeast, E Avenue Northeast, Oakland Road, Center Point Road, and Coe Road. Water from that culvert empties into Cedar Lake. So why do we get so much water coming down Grande Avenue? Well, Grande Avenue is built in a depression, as you can see from this topographical map. Or maybe topographical maps aren't really your thing. If you look south from the intersection of 19th Street and 3rd Avenue and then go to the ridge at the intersection of Beaver and 19th looking north, and then move over to 20th Street on Grande Avenue and look northwesterly, you see the depression that Grande Avenue is laid out in. One stormwater engineer has told me that before the area was developed, where Grande Avenue is now was a creek bed. Some 20 years ago, the city rebuilt Grande Avenue. Under the median that extends from 20th Street to 3rd Avenue Southeast was laid a 72-inch storm sewer. The storm drains beginning at 21st Street channel water into it, and likewise other storm drains along Grande Avenue. Trouble is that the storm drain, large as it seems, is not big enough, not nearly big enough to handle a 5-year storm event. That's a storm event that has a 5 in 1 chance of happening in any particular year. From this inundation map, we can glimpse what happens when we do have a 5-year storm event. The darker the blue, the deeper the ponding water, ranging from 1/10 of an inch to 3 inches. Ponding shown at the upper right on Blake Boulevard, east of 19th Street Southeast, is water that makes its way to Grand. Similarly, ponding on the lower right on Washington comes from still further east, down Beaver and Meadowbrook, onto 21st Street, then makes its way on Park and Grand. Considerable ponding may be seen in the block bounded by 2nd and 3rd Avenues and 15th and 16th Streets. The ponding in Mound View between 15th and 16th Streets is mostly from surface runoff on A Avenue east of 16th Street and from storm sewers overflowing. The intersection of 15th Street and A Avenue Northeast is a critical juncture. Here we see projections of flooding in neighborhoods that results from an even heavier rain, a so-called 100-year event, or one that has a 1% chance of happening in any particular year. The flooding along Grande Avenue and beyond in 2014 was just such an event. The street ran like a river, I'm told. We were returning from an extended trip when it occurred. Cars were swept away, houses moved from their foundations in Mound View, an adjacent neighborhood. Following the 214 flash flood, our next-door neighbor found lodged at the back of his car a Garby from 21st and Washington. We live in the 1800 block of Grand, some 6 blocks away. The increased severity of flooding from ponding water is apparent. Water comes from east of 19th Street Southeast into Wellington Heights, makes its way into Mound View, and thence some of the water goes into Cedar Lake. It's not that the city did not pursue efforts to diminish prospects of future flash flooding. In July 2015, city engineers presented a plan to neighbors on the easterly reaches of Grande, mostly to those east of Crescent Drive. While most of those who gathered at the meeting were content with street, gutter, and sewer improvements,
there is consensus that we're all really excited about the curbs and the streets and the water drainage. Am I right? I mean, everyone is 100% excited and grateful and thankful for that. So,
most of the meeting involved vigorous objections to putting a sidewalk on the south side of Grande from 21st Street eastward.
That 100% of the people that live on the south side of Grande Avenue do not want a sidewalk. Where do we go from here? Because it's very obvious what you're going to present.
As I said, we're going to present that
You've
it's
been
not unanimous that the south side of the street does not want sidewalks.
And now that you know that everybody, which you can report back and tell your people that we're so.
In any event, the project was abandoned. Flash flooding mitigation efforts moved to other priorities. Almost 5 years have passed since the flooding of 2014, and almost 4 years since the failed effort in 2015 that was eventually shelved, and still no remedy to prevent or even lighten the load of future flash flooding is in place. And our area is not the only one to suffer from flash flooding. The city is developing plans. An overview of those plans follow based on information provided by the city's Public Works Department. As you may see from this slide, fixing the flash flooding problem that involves Grande Avenue and other parts of Wellington Heights will be quite expensive, more than $25.5 million. What caught my eye, however, is that the project anticipates 2 detention ponds. A detention pond would hold excess water resulting from heavy rainfalls. The water would be released slowly after the large rain events. One of the detention ponds would replace Redmond Park. The other would require a sizable area in the vicinity of 15th Street and A Avenue Northeast. Both prospects are likely to be controversial. Redmond Park is the largest of the few parks in Wellington Heights and is used frequently. The detention pond in Moundview would require reaching an agreement with Coe College and some homeowners to acquire the needed space for that detention pond. Before anything is done that will affect the flash flooding on Grande Avenue and adjacent areas, other projects will require finishing first. 2 are in the works: Rockhurst and Harrison. Even design work involving the Moundview detention pond would not begin until midsummer 2020. But that work is not assured. The city has developed a plan for the College District, the area between Coe College and Mount Mercy University. The plan embraces the Moundview neighborhood. Mayor Brad Hart recently took that plan to a gathering for mayors to receive comments and suggestions.
What I mean about Mayor Hart, he attended this Mayor's Institute on City Design and took with him as his, if you will, case study, and there's probably a different word for that, the area action plan for the College District. And so the other mayors and the other people involved in this institute analyzed that. He's going to talk about the feedback from that. Mayor Hart.
So it was at the end of February, and they do this annually, and they invite 8 mayors from around the nation to come, and each mayor brings a project, a development project. And then they have 5 design professionals who are from all around the country who listen and provide input and suggestions, and the other mayors, some of them did a similar project, so they provide feedback.
When asked whether the detention pond in Mound View was part of the plan, here's what he had to say. Mayor, we're coming up on 5 years since the flash flooding that hit Cedar Rapids, and Wellington Heights was among those hit. Grande Avenue, as I understand it, used to be a creek bed before things got developed. At any rate, the water that comes out of Wellington Heights comes down to Mound View on its way to Cedar Lake. And you may recall that some houses on A and B were severely affected, and a lot of ponding around 15th and A and B. And one of the things I understand from Public Works is that in order to help with flash flooding, they'll need to make a detention pond somewhere in the vicinity of A Avenue and 15th Street, where Co has a lot of vacant property. So I wonder if in your discussions at this Design Institute, if that came up, and if not, how will you and the City Council deal with plans that need to incorporate flood protection for our neighborhoods?
Well, it sounds as though the city planning already has that in the works, so I'm sure there'll be, whatever happens on those lots or anywhere else, we'll have to accommodate that. No, we didn't discuss stormwater drainage and stuff at the Institute. But, the city, my take is that the city team is pretty careful now. I mean, any new development, they're really looking hard to see what it's going to do for watershed, and if it's going to be significant, they have to put some kind of retention on there, or permeable paving or something. So they're a lot more careful with that than they used to be, obviously. But I don't know any of the specifics of that, Rob.
When will that come to the council's attention?
When something needs
When
to be
will
developed.
stormwater and flood protection as part of the overall plan for this college district in Mound View, when will that come to the council's attention?
I don't know, Rob. Certainly if any new development is going to impact that will be part of the consideration. But I don't know if they're already doing work on that or not. Again, I'm a part-time guy. I don't run the city. I'm not an operations guy. So there hasn't been something that's come to council for us to make some kind of a policy decision on that. But I know that generally that, runoff is really a big issue for anything new, and continue to look at ways to help, alleviate the issues that are already there.
Grande Avenue neighbors and others affected by flash flooding will have a further wait beyond the almost 5 years of the previous inundation. In addition to apprehensions about the next flash flood, Grande Avenue neighbors have also to ponder where flash flooding will be among the city's priorities, and concerns about the future of Redmond Park should the city decide to move ahead. Robin Cash for Neighborhood Network News.